Okay, so I'm going to talk about my latest project, which is this rotary phone right here. Everybody who's seen one of these before or has the slightest clue how they work knows that you need a landline for using one of these phones. I don't have a landline. I have no intention of getting one, so that means I've got some things to figure out if I want to use this to actually call people. That's going to be some sort of variation of making calls over the internet, and it's going to take a lot of work to get there. So these projects have been done before. I mean, if you go online, there's quite a few examples of people who've taken rotary phones and modified them to the point where they can make calls over the internet or through a Raspberry Pi or some variation of that. My approach to this is going to be a little bit different. While most people who do this, they take the phone apart, they pull out all the guts, and they replace the interior with modern hardware such that, on the outside it looks like an old phone, but on the inside it's all new. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to leave the inside of the phone unmodified, and I'm going to create all the hardware that I need to interface with it. Because, back in the day when these phones were common, all the phones are connected to a central office, and the central office sent all the analog signals that the phone needed to operate. That included the voice signals that were both sent and received, the dial pulse signals, detecting whether the phone was hung up or lifted, the high voltage ringing signal to make the bell ring. All that came from the central office, and it all happened over 2 wires, and it was all done purely through analog. So my plan is to basically give the phone all those analog signals that it expects to see, and then on the other side it's going to communicate digitally and with software to make calls in the real world. So with that out of the way, I think I'll start getting into the details of what I'm actually doing here. So I need to do a few different things. I need to both send and receive the voice signals. I need to detect the dial pulses, so I can actually, dial a number. And I also need to be able to ring the bell, right? So I'll start with the audio voice signals first. So if we got over here, I've got this breadboard which has a network of isolation transformers and also some amplifier circuitry. And so the isolation transformers are actually kind of a standard configuration for handling the analog signals on these phones. And so I've kind of replicated that on this breadboard. And these are the isolation transformers right here. And right here I have, this is actually two amplifier circuits. One of them is for outgoing voice signals, the other one's for incoming voice signals. And so the way it's set up right now is, if I were to, pick up the phone and talk into the mouthpiece, then I have a separate set of earbuds, actually, separate set of earbuds right here that I could hear the voice signals coming into. At the same time, I have a little microphone here that's connected to this circuit. Here's my microphone. So if I talk into this microphone, you could hear the voice signals coming in through the earpiece on the phone. So that's kind of where I'm at right now for dealing with these analog voice signals. I also have a circuit for ringing the bell on the phone. So this little guy right here, and it puts out a 20 hertz signal that gets amplified. Well, it's a step-up voltage through these two transformers right here. So if I just push this button, there, you can hear the phone ringing. And that actually took a little bit of work because there were some tricks I needed to use to get the voltage high enough to ring the bell. It takes a pretty high voltage, so that took some work to do. And this huge mess of wires here, this is a dial pulse counting circuit that I built. This is all discrete components. I can demonstrate that really quick. So if I lift the phone off, I'll just dial, I'll start from 0 and start dialing up. So you can see those numbers updating right there. So you kind of get the basic idea, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now you just keep on until I dial 10 numbers, right? So, and what happens is when I hang up the phone, that circuit will reset. So you see everything goes 0 there. So all this is purely, you know, just analog stuff over here, and then a little bit more analog stuff during the bell, and then a bunch of digital stuff I use for reading dial pulses. But this is all solid state. There's no software yet. I also have a Raspberry Pi, which I'm going to take input into through the GPIO pins. And so what that's going to do eventually, when I'm done with this, is it's going to read the dial pulses into the Raspberry Pi and use that to make calls over the internet. I'm not very experienced with Python programming yet, so I'm kind of climbing the learning curve on that. But I have gotten to the point where, you know, I can dial numbers on the phone and, you know, display those numbers on the screen here. The screen's not on, but basically I've kind of started at a very basic level of, you know, reading inputs through software, but there's still a lot of work to be done on that. So anyways, that's kind of the status of where this project is right now. Definitely has a long way to go. And of course the final product isn't going to have this huge mess of wires and breadboards. I'm going to have something a little more permanent. But that is all, you know, kind of a ways into the future, but I'll figure it out. Thanks.